Hello, SPED 2010 students. I hope everyone had a great week last week. So we are actually, believe it or not, at the very end of the course, which means that we're working in our last module, Module 10. So Module 9 was really about assistive technology, right? So we are going to be looking at how do we implement effective instructional practices and what this would look like in an inclusive classroom. So one thing I did want to note is you are also going to be working on completing your co-teaching lesson plan, and the instructional practices that you're going to see in this module goes along with our co-teaching assignment. So we'll go ahead and get into Module 10 so you can kind of get an idea of what you're working on. So with Module 10, I'm going to show you how can we support students in the classroom. So how you will do that is we're going to examine high leverage and evidence-based practices. We're also going to look at differentiated instruction as well as co-teaching models. These co-teaching models go along with your co-teaching assignment. So our objectives for Module 10 is really for you to be able to identify those high leverage evidence-based practices. You should be able to define co-teaching and identify examples of the 5 co-teaching models. Now, inside of your co-teaching assignment, you will be implementing at least 2 co-teaching models, and we'll go over that in a moment. You should be able to justify the rationale of using research-based strategies, which is what we're going to be talking about in Module 10, and then discuss the relative advantages of instructional tools and strategies based on student characteristics. Okay, and all of these objectives really are going to help us meet our course outcomes here. I have went ahead and put in the keywords and concepts. As you'll see, it's the things that you're going to be examining and looking at, these instructional practices. So we have evidence-based practices, also known as EBP, high leverage practices. Sometimes teachers will refer to them as HLPs. What the 4 aspects of high leverage practices are: collaboration, assessment, social emotional behavior, and instruction. Then we get into co-teaching, right? So what is co-teaching? What is collaboration? Then the 5 models of co-teaching: one teach, one observe, station teaching, parallel teaching, alternative teaching, and team teaching. And then finally at the bottom, differentiated instruction. So all of these are keywords and concepts that we're really going to be focusing on in Module 10. So you'll see here, I went ahead and listed both the in-task teacher professional standards as well as the standards for counsel for exceptional children. Now let's dive in. This week, you'll notice there are a lot of resources. Now, instead of reading from your textbook, I actually gave you 3 articles that I want you to read. They're fairly short, they're not very long. They give you a little more in-depth into what we're going to be specifically looking at with evidence-based practices, meaning, co-teaching is a research evidence-based practice. So it's a high leverage practice. So we've got an article on co-teaching, how to use it to reach every learner. Another article I thought that would be beneficial is what is differentiated instruction and why differentiate. And the last one is high leverage practices and evidence-based practices, a promising pair. So these 3 articles, like I said, they're not extremely long, but I feel like they're going to take the place of our textbook for this last module because I feel it's important for you to be able to really dive deep into defining what these are. I went ahead and gave you a differentiated instruction PowerPoint as an additional resource. I felt like it could help you after you read the article. I put some co-teaching videos on here. I felt also this is important because we have to define co-teaching, and this is a really good co-teaching models video. This is a YouTube video, but it's going to really break down the 5 co-teaching models, what it is, why is it a high leverage practice, and how it can be beneficial in the classroom. In addition to that, I have some short videos. If you're like me, you need to see this visually. Your hands-on, your visual. You need to see how are these models being used in the classroom. So you'll see here, we have examples of what those 5 co-teaching models will look like. And I mentioned that you have this big co-teaching assignment course project due. And these models, you're going to choose 2 of them inside of your co-teaching lesson plan. So it's really good for you to dive deep into this co-teaching models and kind of see what it looks like and examples of it visually in the classroom. I also gave you a high leverage practices video when you're working with students with disabilities. I felt like this is important because it kind of connects with the research practices that we're learning about in this module. If you are not a visual or oral learner, I went ahead and gave you the transcript, so if you'd rather just look at that instead of watching the video, that's there for you as well. Now, in addition to those, I gave you some additional resources on co-teaching. I felt like you might find this beneficial. These are web links. One of them is 6 co-teaching models, so it's going to give you an extra one. I felt like for us, we're only focusing on 5. But you have 6 there. And then why is co-teaching beneficial for students who have special needs? So I really feel like that is something that you could, use as an additional resource. I also gave you an additional resource of an IRIS module that walks you through differentiated instruction and you creating that environment for students. Now, what are you going to be assessed on? So you are beginning this Module 10 on November 18th. Fall classes end on the 5th. But in the middle of that, you also have to complete your co-teaching lesson plan and presentation. So this is a project that you should have been working on for quite a while. I've mentioned it. I've posted videos on the course homepage about it. So this is something that you can't do last minute, right? So it takes a little bit of time to prepare. So that way, you can feel like you've accomplished. And this is a course project, which means it's a little bit different than a module assessment for a week. So I want you to take time and really put together a presentation and a lesson where you're going to pick a evidence-based teaching strategy and you're going to teach us how to use it in our own classrooms. So that's the gist of the project. And with that, we want you to have plenty of time to do it. So Module 10, you'll see, I went ahead and put the co-teaching lesson plan and presentation there, and it will be due on December the 5th. I also have the Module 10 quiz for you. That will end December 5th as well, so you know December 5th is the last day of classes. And then I want you to complete 2 IRIS modules, evidence-based practices and an IRIS module. That's on differentiated instruction. One thing I did want to note, I do give you worksheets that go along perfectly with these IRIS modules. However, you're not submitting them. They're giving you feedback. It's for your benefit to study, to make sure that you comprehend and understand and have that deep connection. So you do not turn that worksheet in, but nonetheless, it's there for you as a study tool. The same thing with the IRIS module for differentiated instruction. You will not submit the worksheet I give you, but it is a study benefit for you. Okay. So before I let you go, I wanted to kind of go back and look at the co-teaching assignment again because it's such a big course project. I want to make sure that you've been working on it and just to go over to clear up anything that you might have. Now, when you click on the co-teaching model assignment, I have plenty of resources here for you that you can use to help you with this assignment. You will see the co-teaching video that I put in Module 10 is there, as well as those examples of co-teaching models in the classroom. So they're just there to support you. So you've seen them before, but it just helps you gain a better understanding. So those are there, as well as the in-task standards. Now remember, in-task standards are a support to promote teacher effectiveness and growth in the classroom. So they're called teacher preparation standards. You have seen them throughout the course as part of our looking at the standards. So I always put those in there. So as you're creating your lesson plan, you will be thinking about which standards fit in with your co-teaching lesson plan. So you will have to include those. So I gave them there for you as a support tool so you can go through and see which standards you're going to be using in your lesson plan. Now, when you click on the very first link, it's going to bring you to the actual assignment. Remember, as I mentioned in videos prior to this one, you have to pick a evidence-based teaching strategy, right? And here's your choices of which ones you could choose. You're going to pick one and you're going to research it, right? Now remember, Co-teaching means collaborating with the teacher. You both are teaching. There's two teacher roles. So even though you're not doing this with a partner, you still will have to create two roles inside your lesson plan. Now, I did give you, like, once you decide which strategy you're going to use and you've done some research, which hopefully you've gotten at least this far on the project, because you've had most of the semester to work on it. Now you have to figure out, how can I use this in the classroom? Well, you're going to use the co-teaching lesson plan form that I give you. This form is for you to use, right, to plug in like a formula. Remember, your lesson plan is not going to be more than 30 minutes in length, okay? This strategy, you're not teaching the kids. You're going to teach us how to use one of these strategies in our own classroom. So you could include handouts, activities, any print materials, attachments, anything like that should be included in your lesson plan, okay? I went ahead and included an audible PowerPoint that goes through and talks about each part of the lesson plan, so make sure that you look at that. Okay, I'm going to pull up and show you the worksheet, the lesson plan. Okay, so if you'll look here, this is the lesson plan template. I'm not going to take time to go in depth because I've already done another video on this, but as you see here, this is a template. You'll plug it in. At the top, you're going to see teacher 1, teacher 2. You obviously are going to be teacher 1, but you will make up a name for teacher 2. And at the top, you're just going to put a check mark for which of the 5 co-teaching roles you want to use. Remember, you're going to use at least 2 of them, okay? So you're going to just put a check mark as to which 2 you're going to be using throughout your lesson. For topic, it's going to be your strategy you chose. Subject, that really doesn't matter because we're not specifically honing in on any subject matter because our subject or topic is the strategy itself. You're going to list your in-task strategies, those teacher preparation strategies, and then you're going to give us a lesson outcome. Now remember, your lesson outcome is what our objective is. We want to be able to learn and how to use this strategy in our own classroom. You're going to list any materials you need, handouts, attachments, etc. Any vocabulary that makes sense to go with your strategy. And then you're going to go through each part of your lesson component. Now, a lot of this is going to look familiar because some of this is based off our UDL lesson plan. So you have first your anticipatory set. This is your introduction. This shouldn't be more than 5 minutes. Okay, the whole lesson is going to be 30 minutes worth, but this should take up no more than 5 minutes. And then you're going to tell what you're doing. And then throughout that, thinking about team teaching. Are you going to be doing station teaching during this time? What's going to be your role? What is the other teacher's role? And you're going to create a lesson, right, teaching us about your strategy. The lesson activities, this is the teacher input. This is the majority of your lesson. It's going to take up the most time. What are you going to do to teach us about the strategy, giving us examples of how to use this in our classroom. Then you're going to have a closure. This is your end of your lesson. And then that means closing out any activities or something that you wanted to do. Assessment is how you're going to assess our knowledge to see what we've learned about the strategy and if we can in fact use it in our own classrooms. Then you have any questions related to your topic or objective, right? So these are things that you'd want to ask us, and it's always good to have questions ahead of time before the lesson begins. I have went ahead, I put the rubric here, so you're going to see how I grade you. Remember, in addition to this lesson plan, you're going to do a presentation, right, a PowerPoint, and that's going to really be your visual, and this is going to let us, the PowerPoint should not mirror your lesson plan. It should be visuals of pictures and images of this strategy used in classrooms, right? And I talk more about this in the second paragraph. But I have given you sample lesson plans and a sample presentation PowerPoint so you can kind of see what the expectations are. Remember, always look at the rubric before you submit any assignment. So that pretty much is going to take care of Module 10. Remember, the co-teaching presentation, you can turn it in when you feel like the lesson plan and presentation when you're completed and you feel like it's appropriate and you don't need to make any edits. but please make sure before you submit it, you do go back and look at the rubric and the expectations. That will be due December 5th. Your quiz for Module 10 will close December 5th, as well as having these 2 modules completed. Okay, so you have more than enough time to get that done because it opens on the 18th of November. All right, as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, and I hope you guys have a great week. And this won't be the end and the last video. I'll do one more to kind of go over the wrapping up and closing part of our class, as well as talking about final exams. So I will make sure that we have one more video before the course completely ends. All right, guys, until next time, take care.